Happy Friday! What's going on, y'all?
It's Nick here with F.O.F Financial Coaching LLC, and I'm here today to talk about what else? Money. Okay, so
Happy Friday! What's going on, y'all? It's Nick here with F.O.F Financial Coaching LLC, and I'm here today to talk about what else? Money. I guess I shouldn't say it's just Nick here. We have my wife here with me today. Hey, honey, how you doing today?
I'm good.
That's
Well,
good. So, you already know we're here to talk a little bit about finances, and so kind of our question and our topic for the day, how your financial choices would indirectly affect you and or your spouse. All right, so this goes beyond like before you get married, even if you're a single person. So as we get into it, we really would appreciate if you guys would subscribe to the channel as well as like it, because we hope that you all get some information out of this,
as well as comment.
Thanks for having my back, honey. As we get into this, honey, I got a question for you. So before we got married, before you married me, and you know I'm probably say I'm a little crazy, especially when it comes to being financially responsible, if you will. At least I try to be. Physically, there you go. Physically responsible. I try my best to do that. I'm not perfect like anybody else, but I try to be. How would you say that you handled your finances before we got married? Let's say even before you met me, how you say you actually handle your finances?
So before I met you, I thought I was budgeting, but once we got together, you quickly busted my bubble, and I realized that I wasn't budgeting.
Okay, so
I kept wait.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I kept track of everything. Like I kept track of what I was spending, and I knew what I was saving. But as far as really like zero-based budgeting and all that, I wasn't doing it.
Okay, so when you say kept track of everything, I feel like, you just said like, an entanglement or something like that. When you say you kept track of everything, what did you actually do?
I kept the receipts. Like every receipt I had, I was like, okay, let me check this, make sure it lined up with what's coming out the bank account, what they charging me for water and electric and all that stuff. It lines up with the bill. That's all.
Okay,
that's what that means.
So that's all you were pretty much doing.
Right, and saving.
Okay.
Yeah.
And saving money.
Yeah.
But saving with, what was your goal in when you were saving?
To be honest, I didn't have a goal. I was just saying, I knew I should save for a rainy day. How did you handle your finances before we got married?
All right, so before we got married, the way I handled my finances was I would kind of do something similar. I would just make sure that I had an idea in my head of, okay, this is about how much money I have, and I know about this, how much is about in my checking account. And so I would just think like, I don't want to spend over this amount of money because, obviously I wouldn't have any money in my checking account. I saved the money just regularly, what I thought was good enough to save for the month. I didn't necessarily, why you all in my face? You know what I'm saying?
You was all in my face.
I didn't necessarily have a goal or anything like that. I was just saving, and I think even when I had bought a car, I bought it with a loan on it, and that's not a good decision, but I did that. That was like in 2012, so like before we met. And so I just was like moving toward trying to pay it off, and eventually I paid that off kind of early too. I think I had like a 4-year loan on it, 4 or 5 years, something like that, maybe 4 years at the time. But I paid it off in like a year and a half or something like that because I didn't really like having a car payment. Beforehand, I didn't have a car payment, so I didn't like that. So the way I handled my finances was I wasn't doing the budget and stuff at all at first. I didn't really think that it was that important. I mean, like you said, I was pretty physically responsible then, but I would just watch my spending, and I really wouldn't spend that often unless, a big trip or something like that came up with the homies or doing something like that. That might be something that I would do. But for the most part, I would say I had I would just keep track of stuff in my head, and it was working out pretty good. I mean, I'm all right with numbers, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I feel it.
So with all those things being said, I think it's interesting and something that we have to think about just as single people, even before we met, how those habits you start to build, you take those things and you bring them into a marriage. So even if you're not married right now, the things that you're doing financially, the habits that you're building, what decisions that you make financially, that already is like indirectly affecting the relationship you have with your spouse. You don't even know it yet, right? Because these habits are, you feel like this is the way things should be done. You feel like these are the ways that things should go. When it comes to money, especially being single, it's like, this is my money. Like, I'm gonna handle my money how I want to handle my money. And so nobody else is really going to be able to tell me or talk to me or try and move me to do something I'm doing with, quote unquote, my money. All right? You're not going to tell me what to do.
Right. When in all reality, it's really God's money. We just manage it over, stewarding over it, I guess.
Okay, Deaconess. I see you. Okay. I see you. Okay. You're right. But that's not our mindset most of the time,
it's
right?
Not. It wasn't my mindset.
Right.
Back then, yeah.
Exactly. That's just not our mindset. And so I think that once we finally did get married and I was already starting to become like more budget savvy. I had already been like listening to Dave Ramsey stuff. And like I said, I paid off my car. And so I was getting a little bit more learning like, what budgeting actually is. And also learning like having goals for things, not just saving money.
The habits really do affect when you get married. The habits you create as a single person definitely affects your marriage. And let's say like, cause me, I feel like I used to be a product junkie. Natural hair, all that stuff. My natural girls out there, y'all know. But I would just go to the store. Okay, this product coming out. Let me try it. But carrying that into our marriage, like if I'm just buying hair products and stuff like that, then that's not going to be beneficial if that's not an alignment with the plan that we created. You know what I'm saying? So those habits really do affect, the habits you create outside when you're single. They really do affect marriage.
Yeah, because when you're getting ready to marry someone, you have to think, would I be willing to change this, or I'll be willing to do something different for the overall goal? And I think that all of that is important to see, because all of it's important. It's just not my thing is just important and hers isn't. I think it's all important, but you see me just setting goals and just being like pushing towards, okay, we got to save this much, or we're going to try and get a house, we're going to try and do this. All of that affects her, because now she's just like, oh man, like with him like trying to do that, it just affects her like, oh man, I don't really want to do anything now, because that's like no fun for me at all. So my choice of want to be, okay, let's hit this, kind of affects her in a way that it may make her blow out steam. Like she may not want to keep on going. Overall, what I think is very important and from this video is that when you're developing a system in marriage, or a system even when you're single, you really got to look at how your decisions are going to affect you indirectly or directly. Now, if you're married, anything you do is going to affect your spouse indirectly or directly. And if you're single, like, not saving for retirement, doing those things, it may not do anything now, but then later on, you'll see the effect and you'll see that it can be hurtful to you. And so I think overall, what we want you to kind of recognize is that when it comes to your finances, it's very important to really think your decisions through, right? Not to be very impulsive and not trying to just like be with the in crowd or whatever it may be. Because that decision you make now, if your later self, are you going to look back and be like, hey, thank you very much for those decisions? Or you're going to be like, man, I really didn't need to buy that. I really didn't need to do that. Man, I should have been saving for this. Man, I should have been trying to get out of debt. Whatever it is that you're trying to do. So really, I'm just saying, think through, think ahead, and just understand that your decisions are going to affect you directly or indirectly. And the same is going to happen if you're married. It's going to touch on both people. You can't get away from it no matter how much you try. All right. So overall, what we want you to do is just choose faith over fear for your finances. We appreciate you guys watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. Anything I forget?
No.
All right. Happy Friday!